Get ready.
Hi, my name's Kaz Riley and this is Trancing in the Sheets. And today I have the Hypno fairy godmother, Shirlee Yantz, talking about hypnosis in the LGBTQ plus community and lots of other cool things. But before we go over to Shirlee, just to remind you that when you join the network, you will send a $200 gift card and you need to go and activate that. So make sure you go and find that email, activate that voucher, and if you would like to know how travel cards can help your business, then just put the word solutions in the box below. But over to our wonderful guest today. Shirlee is the Hypno fairy godmother. She has worked within the LGBTQ plus community. I have to say this so slowly, being dyslexic and remembering the right order of things, but has worked in that community for many, many years. Firstly as a massage therapist, then as a naturopath, I believe, and more recently as a hypnotherapist, but has a wealth of knowledge and understanding and is well loved by her clients. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Shirlee.
Thank you. It's great.
So tell us a little bit more about your specialism, because it's one that is much needed, and not many people specialize, do they, in the LGBTQ plus area?
No, actually, when I first started, I went online to see if I could get with other people that that also specialize in this, and I couldn't find any. And I was really amazed because people would put it on their list at like fourth or fifth thing that they can do, but nobody was really specializing in our community. And so I thought, well, that's definitely something then I'm going for it because it needs to be there.
Absolutely. And I know you, as we were just discussing before we kind of started recording this one today, but there are, areas of the community where, people, I think many therapists will work with gay people. Right. The bisexual communities maybe not so catered for or even understand, but certainly the transgender, transsexual community has been really undercatered for, hasn't it? There's a real shortage there.
Yeah, because when they call a therapist, whether it's a regular therapist or a hypnotherapist, they feel like they have to train the therapist as to how to work with them. And they shouldn't have to do that.
No, and it's a knowledge base, isn't it? I think it's a knowledge base, and it's a knowledge base that is growing exponentially at the moment. It's evolving along with the treatments and the recognition of how transitioning can affect people. I know I said to you just before, again, we came on the show, the majority of my work within that community is with post-op, but there's obviously pre-post, never want to have an op, all kinds of things. But, it's not just a case, is it, often of people have the operation, then all is well. There's the whole backlog of issues.
Oh, yeah.
Issues. Yeah.
Because you're starting almost from scratch again. You finally go to, get the operation so you feel like you're the same person, but as far as sexuality goes, you're starting from scratch because you have new parts. Some parts are put on, some parts are taken off. It's like going through puberty all over again.
Yeah, and I know certainly that's how it's been described to me actually by some of my clients. It's kind of like second puberty, or real puberty, or righted puberty is another one that's been used as well. Tell us a bit about the work that you do, because I know you've worked with people right from pre-op, kind of right the way through. Tell us about some of that work, because there's so few people that do that work.
Well, what I love is that the clients that find me that are pre-op, a lot of them are still trying to decide. Some know immediately that this is what they want to do. This is great. But some still are kind of on the fence of, do I want to make that big commitment?
Mm-hmm.
you know, because that is a huge commitment, whether you're going male to female or female to male. Most people know about the female to male or the male to female, but when you go from a female to a male, that's a whole nother situation because then you have to decide, do I want to take out, you know, all my girl organs, or do I want to, you know, just do half of it?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, so there's a lot of their questioning. So what we do is, you know, kind of have them stand in front of a mirror and go, what do you see? Because inside they know who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
And for some, they go, you know what? I'm happy just the way I am. And that's perfect. I'm going to take hormones. I'm great. Others are like, wow, maybe I should rethink this because I have had that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the ones that come in and they know positively this is what they're going to do, a lot of times it's just making them feel comfortable with their decision. Because when you make that decision, you not only affect you, you affect everybody around you,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily badly, but it's a huge difference. So, you know, what I try to do is make them, you know, we get down to the are you sure? Are you, you know, I'm not trying to talk you out of it or into it, but you know, let's work through this.
Mm. And I think it's very, you know, one of the things that happens here, certainly in the UK, is that when people are transitioning, they're kind of asked, well, what we want you to do, we want you to live as a male or a female, depending on where somebody kind of wants to transition to for a period of time, and we want you to do that. And that's actually, I mean, that's people even need help doing that, isn't it?
Oh
Because a
yeah.
lot of that's about self-acceptance, and essentially, you know, nothing physically has changed. They're just being asked to, you know, to look very different, to live. And then actually knowing, what does living as a woman mean? What does living as a man mean? You know, it's about a
Exactly.
person, isn't it? Are they, you know, they're being asked to fall sometimes into stereotypes that don't necessarily fit them. And that can be very challenging as well, can't it?
Yes, because people assume living as a woman means you wear dresses and lots of makeup and high heels, and that's not always the case.
No.
Um, you know, I'm a lesbian, but I don't own a dress. So if somebody told me to dress like a woman, that's really, you know, I wouldn't know what they were talking about because to
Mm.
me, that's who I am.
Mm.
And for them, being a woman could mean all sorts of things. It can just mean, you know, changing little things, but it could mean, you know, you can do the whole, I have to wear a dress and a heels but if that's not who you are as a person, then, you know, or acting like a man, you know, working like a man, what does that, you know, what defines you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, what does that even mean? You know, it's
Exactly.
you know, this is where we're moving things forward, but things can go backwards when people are asked to be a certain thing, because there is no definition really anymore of how a man or a woman should be. And I think often what we're doing, and certainly what you're doing, is helping people discover themselves. It's self-discovery of who they
Yeah.
are as a person, how they identify, and what that means to them, isn't it?
Yes, because, you know, they've made this decision, but now, you know, what's going to change? You know, you're not going to change on the inside because you were always that person. But how does that come out? You know, how do you make that person shine?
Mm.
And that's, you know, that's the most important part is even after they have the surgery or don't, you know, a lot of the therapy is, you know, discovering who they are.
Mm.
And sometimes it's mourning that old person, you
Mm-hmm.
know, giving them a little memorial, letting them go because they were that person for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as though people know that person, know the old person. So sometimes, they feel it necessary to let everybody kind of, it's a weird kind of grieving, but it's just, thank you for letting me live in that thing, but now I'm taking over.
Mm. And I think sometimes as well that this is the thing, going back to what you were saying about it can impact on lots of people around. And of course, what sometimes happens is everybody's just completely accepting of that, and it can be quite easy. But obviously, people sometimes don't have that. They don't have people that simply accept the person as the person,
Right.
and they can really struggle with kind of using a different name, using different pronouns, or all those kinds of things. And I know that can be very distressing for people that have transitioned or are transitioning or identifying differently to, how they were born, if you like.
Yeah, because we kind of have a thing in the LGBTQ community where you have the family you were born with and then the family you make.
Mm.
And sometimes, you know, you have to rely on the family you made, the people that are going to be there for you and support you
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, tell you that, you're making the right decision. Just that moral support. And if you don't have it in your blood family, which a lot of, especially trans people don't,
Mm-hmm.
um, you make your own community, you make your own family.
No, absolutely, and I think a lot of it's getting away from these stereotypes, isn't it? As well, of it's so important that people can just truly be themselves. I was having a look at your website before we came on air today. Just remind everybody of your website address.
It's whisperingzen.net. So it's a .net, not a .com.
But what I loved on there was some of the terminology that you use about hope coaching. And I think that's probably, a huge part. And I think self-esteem reclamation, kind of
Yes, myself.
reclaiming things.
Yes.
And
You need to get that self-esteem back. You were brave, you've been brave, but you have to live that bravery.
mm,
Um, and especially, because in several states here, you can still be fired for being gay and especially for being trans. So it's such a, kind of a fine line that it's like, I want you to live your truth.
mm.
As hard as it is, you got to live your truth because if not, you're just going to be miserable. And nobody wants to, be that. So, you know,
And it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, is it? When you've been brought up as one gender and everybody's identified you that way. And I know from a lot of the clients that I work with, they felt they've had to hide it. They've had
right,
to, they've never fitted in. They've never even felt at home within their own body. I mean,
right,
so they've never really felt often that there's a safe place because they've never kind of felt complete within themselves. And it's a very difficult thing, isn't it, to kind of live that truth. Then when there's fear attached to that you might lose your job or you might lose your family and, that kind of stuff. And actually, often those things don't happen, but the fear that it might, can really help or can really hinder people rather from either just kind of embracing who they are, which is quite often you often see people do this much later in life. They're not, we're now at a time where people are starting to recognize that they're transgender earlier. But,
right.
when people are saying, well, how does that work when you're 30 or 40? But they've basically just been having to hide for all
Exactly.
those years.
They can be themselves maybe at home,
Mm-hmm.
or if they do have a set, group of family. Um, but yeah, they're terrified to go out. One of the things is, you have to go outside dressed as you, be you, but go outside, walk around for an hour first. Don't, be careful where you're at, depending on where you live, but go to a park and just walk around for an hour and notice that most people aren't paying any attention to you.
Mm,
You're just another person walking in the park.
mm,
And that slow progression helps build that self-esteem.
mm.
It's like start slow, but, be you.
For you. I know I often tell my clients, we hear the phrase walk a mile in my shoes. I tell them to go and walk a mile in their own shoes for the first
Right.
time. The ones that truly fit and feel good. And, it's just a lovely metaphor, isn't it? About, kind of just allowing yourself just to truly be yourself, whatever that means. And I think that's one of the kind of real important things from that. So tell us a bit about your practice, because it is so wonderfully unique and so special.
Well, right now, I work in an office in San Pedro, which is Southern California. We're about an hour away from Los Angeles. And I work in the back offices of a holistic store. So we have retail in the front with all the candles and stuff like that. And then I have my offices in the back. And we immediately started, I put up signs, that we were a safe place for LGBT people,
Mm-hmm.
that, you could just come in and sit, because I wanted people to know, I wanted the community to know that there was a safe place, and if they just want to come in and do, like just a little consultation to see if we get along, to know that you don't have to train me, because that's one of the things that I've used is, I don't know what it's like to be you, but, I know what it's like to be me. So together we can come up with a plan for you.
Mm.
If it's just, being able to breathe, you know, for some people, they've been holding their breath for so long, afraid to tell people who they are, that it feels like, especially with the older clients, like the 40 and above, they've been holding their breath. For some of them, it's been since they were 5 and 6 years old.
Mm.
They always knew something was wrong, or not wrong, but something was different.
Mm.
And so sometimes just going, this is this nice, safe place, everybody in here is perfect, you don't have to worry about a thing. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to breathe.
And it is because people do, when people feel like that, when they feel that they're so different, when they can't express those differences to their nearest and dearest, often they're holding their breath. And of course, what happens is they worry that they're going to get found out, they're going to be found out. That's the fear, isn't it? That they're going to be found out. And essentially what you're doing is helping them to make that transition where they're not found out, but they discover themselves, and then they can come out, for want of a better word,
right,
as who they truly are. And actually, for many of them, that's the first time they've ever shown who they truly are to anybody, isn't it?
Yeah, because I like to tell people, come in as you are, but then leave as you want to be, and it's not going to happen overnight. But, you have an ally, you have somebody that, you don't have to feel weird about.
Mm.
You can come in and actually be you,
Mm.
and not spend, the first part of your sessions trying to, explain who you are. And I think that's a big advantage, because I get asked, what makes you think that you know what it's like to be, in transition? And I'm like, I have no idea. That is your personal journey.
Mm.
I can only take it from mine and help you grow. And that's the important part.
Well, this is it, isn't it? And I know, every transition is different. The circumstances are different. The experiences behind it are different. The reception to it is different. Everything for each individual is different, isn't it? And I think this is one of the things about having a practice that specializes this way, is that I know you treat everybody, absolutely everybody, completely differently as a unique individual. It's not a protocol for this or a script for that. This is about who these people are and helping them be, you know, the best version of themselves and accepting and loving themselves, which is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, because unfortunately, the suicide rate in our community, especially with the transgender community, is so high because they feel so alone. They feel like there's nobody to talk to. They feel like, you know, they're like on the edge and maybe they think they're the only one, you know? So to have that little ray of sunshine, that little, you know, that little bit of, oh, really, I can just be me. It's like, absolutely. Come in, kick your shoes off. Let's, you know, and there is no protocol for this,
No.
because everybody is so different. They come from different places. They're at different ages. There's, you know, you can't go off of a script on this one. You, you know, you listen to what they want and you ask.
Well, this is it. You're listening to their story and then helping them to move their own personal story and journey forwards. Sometimes starts with whispering, doesn't it? You know, them being able to just whisper the things that they need to say until I guess they can say it proudly and confidently with that self-confidence, being who they truly are, which, you know, is, and to give people the safe place the way that you give them that, Shirley, is just truly a beautiful, amazing thing that surely is what we should all do for every one of our clients within the hypnotherapy world. But, you know, just to hear the way that you describe that, you know, I know, and knowing you as well, I'm very, you know, very proud to know you, that I know that comes truly from the bottom of your heart. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I wanted everybody to hear you know, what it is that you do. So if people want to, so there's the whisperingzen.net, isn't it? That's your website. Are there other ways that people can contact you, or is it all through that website?
Well, I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, and it's all under the Whispering Zen. So, you know, that's the easiest way to find me. A lot of people find me on Facebook. Which is actually wonderful because that's a whole new way, you know, with this technology. I didn't have that growing up. You know, we didn't have any of this. So, you know, it was important for me to become the person that I would have wanted to have when I was growing up. You know, even as something as simple as you're not alone. You're not the only one.
Yeah. I mean, that's a powerful, powerful statement, isn't it? And a powerful realization, because that's one of the things I think clients across the board think they're the only one, you know, or they talk about feeling desperately alone. And, you know, just having that reach out, like you say, on Facebook and places like that now, where we can build communities that aren't even in the same place. You know, we can do sessions, can't we, from thousands of miles away if we need to. We can do all of those things now, can't we?
And it's so wonderful because I get, you know, people that, you know, contact me from the Midwest. Or I had one girl call me, well, she texted me, but it was from South Africa, and she was terrified, you know, and she's like, I'm totally alone. And I said, no, you're not. And I will stay online with you as long as you need until you feel okay, you know? And that's the power of technology, but it's also just being there. It's a connection, and that's the way we should be with everybody, is just have a natural connection.
Well, you know, I wholeheartedly believe that's the power of you, Shirley. That's why you are the Hypno Fairy Godmother, and that's why, you know, you are so well loved within not only the hypnosis community and the, you know, the lesbian, gay, bi, trans community as well, but you just ooze that compassion and acceptance, and you wear hypno glasses. I mean, what more could you want? I love those glasses. We're out of time, sadly, but this is a topic that needs much further discussion, and I very much hope that you will come back and we can cover different aspects of the work that you do, because I think it's important that people hear about it. Would you do that for us?
I would love to do that. That would be great.
Thank you. So thank you so much for coming on. It's it's whisperingzen.net. It's important that we hear that .net. That will be on here as this airs. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you again soon.
It's been great. Thank you.
Welcome. And if you're enjoying this episode, and how can we not love our fairy godmother that we have here today, but if you're enjoying this episode on Trancing in the Sheets, then I hope you enjoy some of the other ones too. There are several out there now. You can contact me on any of my handles, all of which are at Trancing Sheets, which is on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, all that kind of stuff. And of course, I am one of only 8 hosts on the Hypnosis 247 Live Network, one of whom, or another one I should say, is Mr. Shawn Michael Andrews, the world's fastest hypnotist. And I just make him blush, it seems. I can't think why. So check out his show. He's got some amazing guests on, and I'll see you next time on Trancing in the Sheets. Thanks for joining us.
Get ready.